Welcome everyone to this time of communion. One of my favourite TV shows is The West Wing, and if you're not familiar with it, it's a drama series based around the everyday running of the US government. In one episode, the US president has to deal with a group of asylum seekers who are seeking asylum on the grounds of religious persecution. The president received counsel from various people, and at one point he's warned that sometimes people who are seeking asylum fake being Christian in order to stay in the country. So the president decides to meet with one of the refugees, whose name is Jin Wei. So he begins by asking Jin Wei how he became a Christian. And Jin Wei talks about attending church and being baptised. The president asks how he practices. And Jin Wei talks about singing hymns, sharing Bibles, and being charitable. And after a few more questions, the president asks the refugee to name any of Jesus' disciples. And he qualifies it with a joke about how sometimes he can't remember the names of his own children, but he's cut off as Jin Wei proceeds to flawlessly recite the names of each of the 12 disciples. Now, at this point, it's actually difficult to tell whether the man is really a Christian or if he has Christian-like answers. And then Jin Wei speaks again, this time to caution the president. He tells him that Christianity is not demonstrated by the recitation of facts. He states that it's the wholehearted acceptance of God's promises. And he finishes with a quote from Romans, "For we hold that man is justified by faith apart from the law." The president, himself a man of faith, recognised in Jin Wei's speech what we as Christians also recognise, that good works and religious-sounding talk may look good on the outside, but they do not bring us any closer to God's forgiveness. They don't bridge any gap or earn us any credit to be offered as payment. For God promised even way back in Genesis that he would make the way, that he would repair what's broken, that he would gather everyone back to himself. And we come to this communion table every week, thankful that God unfailingly keeps his promises. Jesus Christ is God's final word on sin and forgiveness. Jesus Christ is God's promise of salvation fulfilled. You and I bring little to this table in terms of righteousness or worthiness, but I hope you bring with you a wholehearted acceptance of God's promises, a belief that when God says he'll take care of us, that he has everything in his hands, that he's reconciled us to himself through his son Jesus, we trust him. A belief that, as Paul says to the church in Corinth, all of God's promises are yes in Jesus Christ. Let's give thanks. Lord God, we don't take communion physically together today, but we thank you that we are bound together through faith. We thank you that your promises are true and that Jesus came to fulfill them all. And whatever we're using today to represent the bread and the cup, may they be reminders of your ultimate promise of salvation. Amen.